I woke up that morning with renewed energy, as if something inside me had awakened as well. There was something in the air, a strange but comforting feeling, as if everything finally had a purpose. I couldn't remember the last time I felt so alive. I got out of bed and, as I closed the door, the creaking of the hinges seemed like the perfect welcome to a new day. I dressed in the most comfortable clothes I could find for walking, laced my sneakers with calm determination, and headed outside. The landscape around me seemed like something out of a dream. The vegetation around me was a vibrant green, as if nature itself was celebrating the day. The sky, covered with gray clouds, gave a mysterious but not threatening atmosphere. The temperature was cool, typical of a morning that still breathed the sigh of the night, and the wind slid gently across my skin, whispering secrets in each gust. With every step I took, I felt happiness settle into my being, as if the entire world was finally aligned in harmony with my mood. In that moment, everything seemed possible. The truth is, I felt deeply happy to be able to breathe the fresh air. The clouds, thick and heavy, blocked the sun, creating a cool and serene atmosphere that completely enveloped me. It was as if, in that moment, I could touch freedom with my fingertips, as if the world offered me a respite and I could finally taste peace. I walked slowly, letting time slip by at its own pace. The kilometers seemed to disappear under my feet, while the wind, increasingly warmer, caressed my face. I didn't think about anything else, just the simple act of walking, of being part of that stillness that surrounded me. The feeling of being completely free, of having no ties, filled me with a happiness I had never known. Each step was an affirmation of my existence, a deep connection with the world, with the air, with life itself. I didn't see anyone around me. The world was profoundly silent, as if time itself had forgotten its march. Everything around me was destroyed, in pieces. The once imposing buildings were now covered in thick layers of plants that grew freely, claiming what was once theirs. Nature had taken control, enveloped in its own magnificence. It was an ordinary day, although everything around me seemed to belong to another time, to another cycle of humanity. The civilizations of the past had succumbed, leaving only their remains scattered among the ruins. The desolation was palpable, but there was also something deeply beautiful about the scene. The vestiges of what were once great structures mixed with new life like a kind of dance between the end and rebirth. He looked at the ruins with a mixture of respect and fascination. They were vestiges of forgotten stories, of dreams that once stood as tall as those now fallen buildings. But despite everything, the landscape that unfolded before me was proof that, even in destruction, there was beauty. A wild beauty without restrictions, as if the world was breathing again, in a different, calmer, purer way. I continued walking for miles, letting my steps mix with the murmur of the wind and the rustling of the leaves under my feet. Suddenly, in the distance, I glimpsed some fruits hanging from a tree, suspended like little red jewels among the foliage. I approached them with curiosity, and upon touching them I noticed their softness, the perfection in their reddish color that contrasted with the green that surrounded them. I didn't hesitate for a second. I took some and held them in my hands, feeling their freshness. I bit them with determination, and the first contact with their pulp was a discovery. The flavor, sweet and juicy, exploded in my mouth, like an unexpected gift from nature. It was a mixture of freshness and sweetness, so simple and so perfect that, for a moment, everything else disappeared. Each bite filled me with a comforting feeling, as if the land itself were offering me its welcome, its generosity. That fruit, humble but delicious, seemed to be the reward for every step I took in this desolate world, and it made me feel more connected than ever to my surroundings. I walk every day, exploring the ruined cities, looking for something that will give me a reason to continue. Most of the structures have already fallen, crumbling from time and neglect, but vestiges of what was once a vibrant civilization still remain. Although every corner has its own kind of silence, sometimes it is so heavy that it feels like the air is filled with broken memories. I see few animals hanging around. They are the smallest, the ones who do not seem to be afraid of this new reality. Stray dogs, scared rabbits, cats that no longer seem to have an owner. On the deserted streets, one of those small beings is the closest thing to a company, although what really worries me is the absence of the big ones. I have not seen a moose, nor a bear, nor anything that resembles what used to be the abundant fauna of yesteryear. It seems that, over the years, the large animals have faded away. They disappeared without a trace, as if the same fate that devastated the world was also responsible for eliminating the creatures that took their place in the natural chain. Something tells me that everything has to do with what happens at night, with that creature in the sky, that monstrosity that darkens the universe every time it blinks. Every time night falls, I wonder if something else also bleeds away. If everything that was big and strong, what stood the test of time, was annihilated by what appeared from among the stars, the apocalypse may not only have consumed civilizations, but also devastated the pillars of nature itself. Moose, bears? Maybe they became extinct because of something this creature brings with it. I don't know, but I feel it in my gut. That feeling that life as we knew it no longer has a place in this world. A long time has passed since the apocalypse, but the void is still there, growing, like a shadow that never dissipates. How many more are we left? How much longer can we keep walking? The answers dissolve into the fog, and the only certainty is that the world will never be the same. A century after the collapse, the city appears as a vast expanse of ruins, where time and nature have worked together to erase almost every vestige of the civilization that once inhabited it. Structures that once stood imposingly are reduced to skeletons of concrete and corroded metal. Some buildings still retain part of their height, but their facades have fallen, revealing their empty and exposed innards, as if the city was shedding its darkest secrets. The windows, broken and littered with debris, let out a dull echo of what they once were. The streets, now covered in a layer of dust and weeds, are broken in some sections, as if the earth itself had given way to the weight of time and oblivion. The pavement is cracked, and grasses and small bushes grow between the cracks, struggling to thrive in such an inhospitable environment. In some areas, the asphalt has transformed into a mass of hardened mud, mixed with ash from what were once uncontrollable fires. There's still a heavy smell of rusty metal and humidity in the air. The sky, almost always clouded by gray clouds that never seem to clear, provides a soft light that barely illuminates the corners of the city. In the distance, the towers of what were once skyscrapers now resemble the teeth of a fossilized animal, worn and cut by erosion. Between them, nature has taken control, covering the ruins with a thick layer of moss and vines that descend like green curtains. The trees, which have grown excessively in what were squares and avenues, seem to be reclaiming what was once theirs. Animal life is scarce, but some small creatures such as rodents, birds, and insects move stealthily through the streets, while echoes of the once bustling city can only be heard in the whispers of the wind, which blows through empty hallways and collapsed structures. In the darkest corners, the silence feels dense, almost tangible, as if everything is waiting for something. Water which once flowed through rivers and canals is now stagnant in puddles and pools, surrounded by dirt and debris, as if the life cycle itself had stopped in its tracks. Some buildings, those built with stronger materials, remain standing, but their roofs have collapsed and their walls are cracked, like visible scars from a bygone era. And although the memories of what once was fade with time, there is something in the air, something in the way nature has reclaimed what was left, that suggests that this place still holds secrets, old and forgotten, that we may never understand. Do you know? It's funny, but I like to see the cloudy sky, not only because of the freshness and humidity it brings with it, a spectacular sensation for the skin and the environment, but also because it allows me to avoid looking at that thing that lives high up, that presence with multiple eyes, floating in the firmament. I can't say I've gotten used to his constant gaze. The cosmic meows, like distant and strange echoes, still reach my ears, and although I do not understand what they are, I know that they have been there a long time. My great-grandfather said that he arrived one morning as if nothing had happened, and from that moment civilization collapsed. Nobody saw it coming. No one knew what to do, but it was as if the world had stopped, as if nature itself had bowed to that indifferent gaze from heaven. Since then, although it gives me a bad vibe, I have learned to continue with my life, as if it were part of the landscape, something that has become so normal that I hardly notice it. Sometimes in quieter moments, when I look up, I feel that invisible weight, that presence watching from there, but in the end, I ignore it. I have no choice but to move on, like my great-grandfather did, like everyone else does. Although it doesn't stop worrying me, what else can I do? Life goes on, with or without that thing in the sky. In the year 2045, my great-grandfather, as always, was at his house cleaning, doing what anyone would do on a quiet afternoon. However, what happened next was not something anyone could have anticipated. Suddenly, the night sky began to turn dark, as if something gigantic was covering everything. The stars, those old guardians of space, began to fade one by one, as if someone were erasing them from existence. The moon, which had previously shone with its silver light, collapsed, disintegrating in a burst of fragments. And the sun, that sphere that gave us warmth and light, simply went out, plunging the world into a deep and overwhelming darkness. The chaos was not limited to the sky. The oceans, which had always been calm and predictable, rose in violent roars, their waters churning with indescribable fury. The waves crashed against each other, creating storms that did not belong in our world. The earth itself seemed to tremble, as if everything was being torn from its natural course. But despite everything, my great-grandfather managed to survive. I don't know how he did it, but he managed to find shelter, although he didn't know how long he could resist that infinite darkness. From his shelter, he watched as the sky emptied of all light, leaving only shadows and voids. The destroyed moon was a cruel reminder of the irremediable, and the sea, once a source of life and peace, vanished completely, as if it had never existed. What came next was not something he could describe as luck, even if he called it that, or at least tried to. On the horizon, deep in the sky and space, a monstrosity appeared, a gigantic shape, whose outline was impossible to understand. It gave off a light, but not a light that brought hope or life. It was an incomprehensible light, as if something beyond the limits of reality itself had arrived. A light that did not belong to the universe, a light that seemed to overflow from everything known without origin or end, filling the sky with its presence. My great-grandfather did not know if this was salvation or damnation. He only knew that, despite the monstrosity, he was still breathing. But something in his eyes changed. Something broke inside him as if he could no longer see the world the same way. Whatever had come, it was not something to understand, only something to fear. And in his mind, as in mine, the eternal doubt remained. What had come to stay, and why never left? Even though the ocean disappeared, my great-grandfather, in his tireless fight to survive, managed to find a pool of water in some forgotten corner of the earth. A small fountain in the middle of the void, something that would make no sense in a desolate world, but that allowed him to move forward. That water, so scarce and valuable, lasted his entire life, and in some way it was passed from generation to generation. The same water that fed her son, that then sustained her son, and so on, until it was my turn. It's curious, isn't it? In a world so broken and chaotic, in a land that no longer recognizes what it once was, there are still small vestiges of life. Few survivors, the lucky ones, those who somehow manage to adapt or, by simple chance, stay alive. The world, the one we knew, fell apart, but some of us are still here like wandering shadows in a landscape that no longer resembles anything we can recognize. Most of the people vanished, swept away by the waves of uncontrollable chaos, but some of us still remain. We cling to the little that remains, like that pool of water that has witnessed generations. Yet sometimes I wonder how much longer we can last, whether this survival is a blessing or a curse. In the stillness of the new reality, the wind no longer brings the same cool breeze or the whisper of the sea, but we still walk, if only out of habit. And as I look at the footprints of my ancestors, I realize that, although the world has changed beyond what we could have imagined, here we are, the few that remain, trying to move forward in a darkness that does not seem to want to give way. No one knows what it is, but the only thing we all hear, no matter what corner of the world we find ourselves in, is his word, not Cotter, repeated over and over again, like a constant echo that resonates in the depths of the mind. When he appeared, something indescribable happened. The universe itself, as if it had felt the weight of his presence, fell into absolute panic. The stars, those that were always beacons in the darkness of space, began to disappear one by one, as if someone were turning off the lights on a stage that was being prepared for tragedy. And all that was left, the only thing visible in that vast abyss, was her, that thing, that shadow that has now become a constant in our lives, without being a shape or a defined figure, but something far beyond, something that defies our understanding. When Not Cotter arrived, reality itself was torn apart. A bright, intense portal opened in the sky, illuminating everything with a glow that crossed every corner of the observable universe. Space and time seemed to collapse in that instant, as if the very fabric of existence had twisted to make way for the impossible. And after that flash, everything known was enveloped by its influence, its power. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if other civilizations have had the same fate. Perhaps we are not the first or the last to fall under his gaze. Perhaps Not Cotter has already left its mark in distant corners of the cosmos, and all that remains for us is to witness a destiny from which we cannot escape. Meanwhile, we are still here, watching the sky, waiting for an answer that never comes. Honestly, I would like to have walked more to continue telling you the little I know about the end of our civilization, but it's already starting to get noon. The clouds, which once seemed like a protective blanket, are slowly dissolving, letting sunlight filter through. And just when that happens, I feel a gaze on me. It is not an ordinary look, it is that unmistakable presence. The eye of Notkotter, that thing that lives in the sky, peeks through the clouds, observing me with a disturbing calm. A chill runs down my spine. I don't want to stay here much longer. I begin to realize how fragile this moment is, how insignificant I am in front of this creature that has been there long before humans even began to ask. And I dare not challenge her, not today. With a knot in my stomach, I decide that it is better to return, seek refuge at home, where perhaps the sky will not look at me the same way. Better to be away from that presence, even if you can't completely escape it. See you another time if I ever see another day. The night does not exist. What exists is a strange and curious darkness. There is something lurking in the corners of this planet, and believe me, if you get caught, well, may the grace of God be upon you if he is there to do so, but if you ask me, I'm not so sure he's present anymore. After everything that has happened, after everything we have seen, it is difficult to continue believing that something so good, so just, is still here, watching. If it was ever close, it seems to be gone. Gone like the stars we can no longer see in the sky. The creatures that haunt the darkness have no mercy. They don't understand mercy or compassion, and they don't seem to need it. And if what catches you is really one of them, then your prayers are just lost whispers, because nothing can save you at that moment. There is no human strength, no faith, no magic that protects you when the void consumes you. At most, if you are lucky, you will be forgotten, as if you had never existed. Somehow, I feel like the belief in something bigger than ourselves is fading, like everything else. Perhaps God, if he ever existed, was also a victim of that monstrosity. Perhaps he is already dead, like so many others who disappeared without a trace. If there was ever a purpose, a meaning, it seems that everything has been lost. And now we are only left with this daily struggle, this small spark of life that we try to keep lit in the midst of a world that no longer has a place for us. But in the end, we can only keep walking. Because if there is something that terror has taught us, it is that we have to move forward, even if we don't know where. If you like our videos, please comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out to continue making videos and making even better ones in the future.